Hey, so have you been bullied in the past and it continues to affect your self-esteem, your confidence, and your ability to make new connections? If so, stick around because I really want to help you understand how bullying leaves an imprint in your mind, and I want to show you how you can start to overcome, release that old imprint so you can make new connections and move forward in life as your best self. All right, so let's go. All right, so I'm sure you've noticed it's a hot day out here in Vancouver. So let's get into this bullying anxiety, all right? So if you've been through bullying in the past, I want to help you understand what it does, okay? What it does to you internally, what it does to your mind, your thoughts, your beliefs about yourself, your internal feelings. I want to help you understand this, okay? And so what bullying does, okay, essentially when you go through an experience like that where you've been bullied, you've been essentially overpowered, or somebody has tried to hurt you in that way, a bully has tried to hurt you in the past, what it does is it forms an emotional trigger. And I'm going to help you understand this in just a second, okay? So those past experiences, what they do is they form an emotional trigger within you. And so let's say I'm a bully and I want to inflict pain upon you. I want to cause you physical pain. And this is going to sound a little weird, but let's say I cut you, right? I make a big cut on your arm here, and it's a wide cut, a really wide cut. And what that does is it inflicts a wound, okay? So you have this wound, you have this cut here, right? It's painful, and if it's really wide, the thing is, if the cut's really wide, it's not gonna heal on its own. It's not going to self-heal because it's too wide, you need stitches. Now, what you have to do though is, because if you don't have the tools, let's say you don't have access to a doctor, emergency room, you can put a band-aid over it, but the cut's still there, the wound is still there. So if anybody, now if you go interact, you go out through the day, maybe you're walking through a crowd or something, anybody gets near that cut, anybody just bumps you on the arm just a little bit, it causes that pain to flare up. And they don't even have to go directly for the cut. They don't have to like push the band-aid, they don't have to push the cut directly. They could just bump you on the other side of your shoulder and it causes pain over here. And that's the thing with unhealed wounds. It's so easy to trigger pain from those wounds. It's very, very easy. You can get very, very sensitive to that pain. Now, what's an emotional wound, right? Let's go back to the emotional wound from the bullying. It's not physical pain, but what's the emotional wound, okay? And I want to help you understand. I want to tell you a story here of an emotional kind of wound here. I was bullied my whole life by my dad. You know, he was physically abusive, emotionally abusive. And one day, so he's teaching me how to drive, right? I'm 16 years old and I got my L, I'm all pumped, I'm gonna learn how to drive. So he takes me driving, and you know, I'm already nervous about driving, learning how to drive. I'm already a bit nervous. I also know he's a loose cannon, so I'm extra nervous. And so we come up at a stop sign. And there's cars driving by, so I have to cross the intersection. So I'm at a stop sign and I'm looking at the cars coming by and I'm waiting for my moment to go, right? And so I felt like I saw an opening, but it turns out it was too close. The car was coming too fast, and I pushed on the gas and then I slammed on the brakes. I hesitated. And so my dad, he started screaming at me like, "What the hell is wrong with you? What the hell are you doing, you stupid idiot? Don't you know any better? Why the hell are you doing that?" And so I would classify that as a bullying event. Like, that's the external event, getting screamed at like that. But what is the imprint it leaves? What's the trigger that forms? And I want to help you understand it. So I want to give you what I was feeling in this moment. In that moment, I felt like I'm only trying, like I'm only human. You know, like, why are you yelling at me like that? I'm just trying my best. I felt absolutely alone. It was extremely painful. Like, the feeling of being completely alone and, you know, staring at my dad and thinking like, "Hey man, like, you're supposed to have my back." But it turns out this guy is just screaming at me. He wants to make me feel like shit. So, you know, think of how alone and painful that feeling was, to feel almost like non-human, alone, abandoned, and completely alone in this world. Now think of that emotional pain and what it does. And what it does is that emotional pain, it forms the trigger. The trigger is that abandoned feelings. And so as an adult, I was still walking around with that trigger. It's like the cut, right? The cut with the Band-Aid on it. And so I was walking around with this trigger. So whenever I would be in a group, especially if there was a dominant male presence in the group, I would feel completely disconnected. I felt like I was just freezing up. I couldn't be present. I was in my head. Why? Because remember the sensitivity. You don't have to, the person with the cut, you could just bump him on the shoulder and it's gonna hurt over here on his arm. And the same goes in the group. I was overly sensitive. I was hyper vigilant. I was afraid that they were gonna attack me. And why is that? Because of that old emotional wound. I was scared they're gonna trigger off that feeling of being abandoned. They were gonna attack me and then call me stupid, they're gonna call me an idiot. And that's because I didn't heal the past wound. And so once I was able to get more specific, get extremely specific about what the wound was in those situations, because I would catch on to the fact, I would realize I'm not disconnected in every group I go in. It's just that I get triggered in these certain group dynamics in these situations, and then that makes me feel like I don't belong in any group. It's like this compound effect. And so once I caught on to that it was really in particular groups with the strong male presence, that's when I was able to realize that these groups in the present moment were mirroring that dominant male energy. And for you, it's going to be something different. Whenever you're getting triggered in the present moment, something about it is mirroring a similar situation to what happened in the past, and that's why that old trigger is coming up, that old wound is coming up, that old feeling is coming up. So you have to get really specific about what it's about, and then you have to go back and heal those old feelings, that old residual emotional pain. A trigger was formed that wasn't always there. You have to go back and release the trigger, release those old feelings, because when there's no trigger present, when you go into the groups, picture, now if you go into a crowd, let's say you get put stitches on your arm and it completely heals, like the physical pain that we talked about, there's absolutely no cut on your arm. How free are you gonna be to go around your day, to walk around, go in crowds, interact with people, do things that are more adventurous and put yourself out there. And the same goes with the emotional wound. Picture, if you're not at risk for feeling ashamed, abandoned, and all these different things, unlovable, if you don't have the triggers, think of how much more you're going to be able to express yourself, initiate connections with people, and reach out and put yourself out there and take more risks. The key is removing the old trigger. And so if you want to learn more, you can connect with me on Instagram. I would love to connect with you on Instagram, maybe one day hear your story. And I post a ton of content and a ton of value and inspiration that's going to set you off on the right path daily. Okay, and another option is you can join our Facebook group. We have a Facebook group. It's fully dedicated to social anxiety, and you can come in there, connect, build connections, and get the support you need. I'm in there as well, so you can ask me questions and get the support you need to overcome these anxiety attacks and this social anxiety for good. All right, so I hope to see you in there. Thanks for watching. I hope you guys are getting out there. Over here in Vancouver, you can check that out. Everybody's kind of out and about now. Things are opening up. So I hope you're getting out there and getting those social connections, all right? So I'll talk to you in the next one. All right, peace out.